Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Wake up video. Hey guys, how's it going? All right, Battle of Bouvines, 1214 AD. What is going on in 1214 AD? I don't know. Let's find out. If you're new to the channel, hello, my name's Connor. Hit all the things, all the buttons. Original link to the video, top of the description below. Let's go.
It's late spring of the year 1214.
Oh, this is Baz Battles, right? Ooh, nice map. Okay.
It's late spring of the year 1214. Due to his ever-increasing power, French King Philip Augustus pushes his neighbors into forming an alliance against France, resulting in two formidable armies invading Philip's domain on two separate fronts. English King John Lackland, together with his nephew Emperor Otto, marched to reclaim the Angevin domains in France and subdue the French king. The war that follows will irrevocably change the political landscape of Western Europe and alter the very course of history.
Does this have a heavy versus light infantry marker? If it is, I think it's the first time I've seen it. So I'm guessing the bold lines are going to represent heavy infantry. If not, then
Landscape
I am confused. No, I'm good. Let's go.
of Western Europe and alter the very course of history.
I gotta react to more of this channel. Okay.
It is the beginning of the 13th century. The Kingdom of France is ruled by the fair and capable Philip II, aptly nicknamed Augustus by his supporters. 20 years had passed since his coronation, and Philip had come a long way from the emerging ruler of feudal France, becoming a major figure of the political stage that was medieval Europe. Throughout the years, he waged internal wars to subdue some of his disobedient vassals, who were often stronger and more influential than their sovereign. Philip also tried to involve himself in English internal affairs, as one of his primary goals was to diminish the English presence on the continent of Europe. He acted against King Henry II and later his son, Richard the Lionheart, renowned crusader and cruel yet talented soldier. The latter wasn't equal to Philip as an opponent, yet Richard's accidental death in 1199 temporarily halted the hostilities between the two kingdoms. As Richard didn't leave a legitimate heir, the English crown passed to his brother, John Lackland, whom Philip supported for many years, at first against his father, Henry, and later against his brother. John's ascension to the English throne was good news for Philip. He was aware that the new neighboring monarch was quite unpopular among his people and couldn't really compare to the deceased Richard. Though initially friendly, Philip soon realized the inherent weaknesses of the new English ruler and began using his political talents and superior military position to strip John of his dominions in northern France. As a result, by 1204, prominent Angevin duchies and counties including Normandy and Brittany fell within Philip's sphere of influence, and he soon made efforts to strengthen his control over these territories. Of course, John didn't give up, and after reforming his military in 1205, he invaded France a year later in order to reclaim at least some of the lost regions. Though his campaign started well, as he managed to capture the city of Angers, the brief conflict ended in a stalemate. Eventually, the French forced him to sail back to England. A truce period followed, which John used to modernize the English navy and gather resources for another planned assault on northern France. But let's stop here for a while and turn our focus to the east and the lands of the Holy Roman Empire.
Okay.
As early as the beginning of the 12th century, it was an arena of indirect rivalry between the kings of England and France, as the Germans were yet to become a major player in their ongoing conflict. Long story short, following the death of the Emperor Henry VI 10 years earlier, two pretenders to the imperial throne emerged. Henry's brother, Philip of Swabia of the Hohenstaufen dynasty, supported by the French, and Otto of Brunswick of the Welf dynasty, supported by the English. Both crowned themselves as king of the Romans and fought each other for dominion. until Philip was murdered while attending the wedding of his niece in Bamberg in 1208. Most likely, Otto wasn't involved in Philip's death, yet he seized the advantage and soon ascended to the imperial throne.
Most likely.
This presented a whole new opportunity for John of England. Though Otto was still busy dealing with strong opposition in Germany, he eagerly allied himself with his uncle John against the rising power of Philip Augustus, as the King of France still supported Otto's enemies within the empire. But while John forged alliances against Philip in the east, the French king was finishing fleet preparations for a planned invasion of England. Though John was being kept busy with internal problems, he swiftly thwarted the French invasion plans by suddenly assaulting Philip's ships harbored in Flemish ports, using his reinforced navy. The English king hoped to keep the momentum going, yet impending baronial unrest forced him to postpone the planned war campaign in northern France to the following year. John managed to temporarily appease the English nobility in late 1213 and landed his troops in La Rochelle at the beginning of February the next year. Philip assembled an army and marched south to repel the invasion, but soon he was informed of an unexpected second attack led by Emperor Otto through Flanders. The situation looked grim for Philip. Moreover, the Count of Flanders, together with other nobles of bordering counties, sided with John's alliance and complimented.
I just want to say, these, you can clearly see the bold versus the thinner black lines, either denoting the cavalry or the infantry. And if it's not the first time in a video that I've watched, it's the first time that I've noticed a distinction between, I'm guessing it is, the thin line is a light cavalry or light infantry, and the thick one is heavy cavalry or heavy infantry. And I like that.
The imperial army with their own forces. Fortunately, the invading armies failed to coordinate their attacks, which allowed the French king to divide his army in an attempt to defend both fronts. While Philip's son Louis was given the uneasy task of stopping John's progress with troops his father had left him, Philip rushed back north to engage Otto's army. He reached Flanders in late July, just in time to find that his opponents had finished mustering their forces. Philip's advisors feared an open encounter with the stronger imperial army and advised playing for time. Back in the Middle Ages, pitched battle between two large armies was regarded as a very risky solution, which could often result in a sudden and significant shift in power. King Philip heeded their counsel and initially hesitated, but eventually took up the gauntlet and moved his troops northward, seeking a suitable plain for cavalry maneuvers.
Let's do it!
Otto was surprised when he learned of the French position, yet seeking battle, he marched to meet them. The opposing forces met on a plain east of the town Bouvines and began deployment. We don't know exactly how many soldiers Philip
called it Bouvines,
fielded, but modern estimates give him around 5,000 to 6,000 infantry and a little more than 1,000 mounted knights. While the composition of the Allied forces was roughly similar to the French, Emperor Otto had more men at his disposal, possibly just under 10,000 soldiers in total. The battle started with skirmishes on Philip's right flank, where French and Flemish knights charged at each other.
Sorry, I love that. I love that noise. It's a great start of battle noise right here.
Soldiers in total.
Right there.
The battle started with skirmishes on Philip's right flank, where French and Flemish knights charged at each other. Soon, Otto sent the center of his main line forward, and proper battle ensued. It was an even fight, as neither side was significantly stronger. While the Burgundy and Champagne contingents slowly pushed the Flemish flank back, English knights on the other side of the battlefield charged and gradually gained an upper hand, fighting Philip's left. Otto sent some of his reserve units to aid the Flemish on his left, but it was his right flank where the first signs of trouble started to appear. Unexpectedly, despite pushing and winning his engagement, William, Earl of Salisbury, charged too far into the enemy line and was surrounded and seized by the French. Upon realizing that their commander was captured, the bulk of the English cavalry fled the battlefield. In the meantime, the majority of Otto's left flank retreated due to losses, and while the battle still raged, the odds tipped towards the French side. Eventually, He saw that the enemy's advantage was becoming insurmountable and retreated as well, narrowly escaping the battlefield using the help of Saxon knights. Philip's troops prevailed and won the battle. While infantry casualties were more or less even on both sides, many of Otto's knights were killed or captured. The battle was a huge success for Philip Augustus, not only because he killed many enemies in the course of the battle, as losses were roughly equal, but predominantly because he managed to capture many important nobles, including the Earl of Salisbury and the disobedient counts of Flanders, Bologna, and Lorraine. The far-reaching consequences of the Battle of Bouvines soon took root. Hearing that Otto had lost, King John Lackland retreated back to England and was forced to face the unrest among the enraged English nobility, brought on by the king's failures. Soon the discontented barons revolted and England plunged into civil war, which eventually forced John to sign the Great Charter of the Liberties, limiting royal authority. But, well, that's another story. It was a tough time for Emperor Otto as well, who only held the imperial throne for 1 year after the battle. He became increasingly unpopular and eventually was compelled to abdicate. Philip, on the other hand, used the Bouvines victory to boost his royal authority and vastly extended his sphere of influence. After his death, 8 years after the battle, it was apparent that 40 years of his efficacious and just rule virtually transformed a mediocre feudal state into a leading European kingdom, extended his sphere of influence. After his death, 8 years after the battle, it was apparent that 40 years of his efficacious and just rule virtually transformed a mediocre feudal state into a leading European kingdom, which from that point on constantly played first fiddle in European politics.
Well done. I love how the title, there it is, King of the Romans. I want to learn more about the Holy Roman Empire, because that is clearly I know it's modern day Germany, but just the extension of the Roman Empire and how everyone seems to look, fondly isn't the right word, just with a lot of respect and reverence on the old Roman Empire, and nothing like the Roman Empire has appeared since. This is almost, what, like 800 years after, it collapsed, right? Yeah. And so I want to learn more about how the Holy Roman Empire formed, and just that there's that common saying, it's not holy or Roman or an empire, but it is clearly a powerful force in the middle of Europe, and with the Alps in between it and Italy. I'm curious to learn, or I want to learn as much as I can about Italy, since it just had a big void in my historical knowledge in between the Romans times and World War I, whatnot. Before that, it just seems like they were pushed in the corner. I guess they were pretty irrelevant. But I want to learn more about the Holy Roman Empire, especially the formation of it. Awesome video. Still waking up. Another video coming soon. See you guys next time.